guys, it's Alice, and today it is time to take a look at the books I got this month. I seem to have accumulated quite a lot this month, so we're just gonna get straight into it, and we're gonna start with the fiction books. And the first one I got was A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne. This is one of those books that I just kept seeing everywhere, alongside his other book, which is called The Heart's Invisible Furies. And I just kind of wanted to give this author a go since a lot of people seem to love his books. This one is a sort of psychological drama about a writer who I think sort of uses other people's stories to get famous. It sounds very intriguing, and this cover really makes me think of summer, so I think I'm gonna try and read this soonish. Although I do kind of say that about all my books. Secondly, I got Tokyo Ueno Station by Yu Miri. This story follows a man from the time he is born in Fukushima in 1933, and I think that we follow his whole life, and at some point he ends up in Tokyo. I don't really know much more than that, but I'm always looking to read more translated books, so I'm intrigued to see what this is like, and this edition is amazing. Next, we have got Severance by Ling Ma. This is a dystopian novel that I've sort of been umming and ahhing if I should try or not, but I kept thinking about it, so I decided to just finally get it. It's set in Manhattan, I think, and we follow a woman who survives after this fever or something has like swept the city and killed almost everyone. I love these types of stories, so I have kind of high hopes for this. Then we've got a book that loads of you guys have recommended to me, and it is Confessions by Kanae Minato. This is a mystery thriller set at this school where one of the teacher's children dies at the school, I think, and the teacher decides to seek revenge for whatever happened. It sounds really dark, and since so many of you guys think I'm going to like it, I'm very intrigued. Another dystopian novel I got was The End We Start From by Megan Hunter. This is about a woman who gives birth in the middle of this weird environmental disaster that I think floods all of London, and that's all I really know about this. This is another one of those books that's been on my radar for what feels like ages, so I'm excited to finally have it. I'm apparently really into dystopian novels these days because I've got another one, and it is The Book of Edda by Meg Ellison. I got this because someone somewhere very heavily recommended this book to me, but I didn't realize that this is actually in a series, and I think this is the second book. It's set in this village filled with survivors after some sort of plague, and I think our main character is a midwife. I don't know if you can read these out of order, but I think I'm going to try and get myself a copy of the first book and then read that first. Then onto something of a different genre, I picked up a modern classic, and it was Orlando by Virginia Woolf. I basically picked this up because I saw it in a bookstore, and I saw that this was one of the older Penguin Modern editions, because the new ones have blue spines and this one has a white spine, which matches my other Virginia Woolf books, which is a very superficial reason to get it, but I do love Virginia Woolf, so I know that I'm going to read this at some point. Next, I got a poetry collection because I feel like I've totally gotten out of the habit of reading poetry and I really want to get back into it. And the one I got was Yesterday I Was the Moon by Noor Unahar. And this says that it explores courage, self-love, culture, and art. Then I've got a book in Norwegian that was sent to me by the publishers, and it is Kniv by Jon Nesbø. So Jon Nesbø is one of Norway's top authors, and everyone loves him. But I actually haven't read any of his books in years and years. And this follows one of his most famous characters. So this is technically in a series, but I think you can read them out of order because I've done that before and it was fine. In it, the main character, who is a detective, wakes up in a room filled with just blood everywhere, and he doesn't remember what has happened. I actually thought this author had killed off this particular character. I feel like I read that somewhere, but I guess he didn't do that. Since it's been years since I've read any of his books, I'm intrigued to see what I think about them now. And this is also signed, if you can call this scribble signature. The last 3 fiction books I picked up because I did that thing where I was meeting a friend and I was really early, as I always am, and I decided to kill time by going into a bookshop to browse, and there was a sale on, and I found 3 books in a series that I have started, so I just picked up all 3 of them. They're the next books in the Death in Paradise series, so we have got The Killing of Polly Carter, Death Knocks Twice, and Murder in the Caribbean, all by Robert Thorogood. These novels are all set on a fictional island in the Caribbean, and they follow this really silly detective, and they're kind of like cozy mysteries. Lastly, we've got 3 nonfiction books, and the first one is Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. This is a book about mental health, and it takes a look at how modern life feeds our anxiety. And I think that the author wrote this because he developed a panic and anxiety disorder, and the book is sort of about the things that made that better and worse. And I think that sounds really interesting. Lastly, I got 2 books by the author Johann Hari because I listened to him on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I thought that their conversation was really interesting, and I liked the way that he talked about things. So I picked up 2 of his books, and the first one is Lost Connections, and this one is all about depression, and I think he traveled around the world to try and delve deeper into it and find the causes for it. Now, I personally don't really struggle with depression, but I think it's always important to learn about these things nonetheless. The second one is the one that he talked a little bit about on the podcast, and it was Chasing the Scream. And this book is about addiction, which I also don't struggle with, but I do have family members who do, so I'm very intrigued by this. He said something on the podcast that was like, the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection, and I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at it. Okay guys, those were all the books that I had to show you today. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you want to, or if you have picked up any new exciting books lately, and I will see you soon. Bye!